Hey, what's up? Hello, it's Lex. I'm still alive. It's the middle of the night. Can you tell by the spooky shadows? I'm not turning the big light on. You get lamps and ring light. So here's the deal. As you may recall, a few years ago, I was in the most insane reading rut of all time, and it took literal years for me to get out of it. Last year, I read about 20 books, which, if you'll remember, in 2020, I read 75 or something. We've fallen a lot, but that's okay, because I don't think it's a big deal if I'm not reading that many books. If I'm enjoying reading and finding things I am really enjoying and digging my teeth into, and this year I have read 8.5 books so far, because I'm in the middle of my 9th book, and it's April, so that's not too shabby. That's about half as many books as I read in the whole year last year. And I thought, you know what actually made me read that many books in a year? Because the thing is, I didn't always read 75 books in a year. That was actually, I think, since I was a kid, as a grown-up, that was the most books I've ever read in a year. Published books. As we also know, I read literally millions of words of fan fiction a year. So we're just talking published books right now. Whether they be trad pub or self pub, that doesn't matter, but we're talking published novels. But the thing, I think, the hypothesis, is that the thing that really got me reading that many books was making content, right? Which makes sense, if you think about it. I was making videos all the time, so it makes sense that whilst I was making videos as a full-time hobby, I had to be reading enough books to be making frequent content. That makes sense. So I thought if I started making some more content again, which I do really enjoy, it was such a blast to do, so I do know why I stopped. It was life. And it took me a while to figure out a good reading thing abroad, and I was in the craziest reading slump of all time. But if I started making content again, maybe I would read some more. In this video, I just kind of want to chat with you about what my reading looks like right now. I think we should just talk about it. Brief life update. I moved to Korea in 2021, which you know, because I have at least a couple. I have I think 3 or something videos since I've moved to Korea, which is crazy because I've lived here for literal years. Last year I moved to Seoul. I live in a teeny tiny little shoebox apartment. You might see behind me, you're like, well, those are bookshelves. You're right. And on these bookshelves is a large collection of albums. These are all CDs, or mostly CDs. These are magazines. I do have a shelf that has books on it. I do own some books. It's not that I don't own any books. I have a very modest collection of physical books and a pretty sizable collection of ebooks. And then I also am a frequent user of Libby. Stan your library, kids. Shout out. Literally, I read as much on Libby as I can. They don't always have what I want, but when they have it and it's not a million-year wait, I'm fuck it, we'll just use Libby. Love my library. And then I also pay for Everand, which is a Scribd subscription, but it has ebooks and audiobooks and podcasts, but I don't use the podcasts. And so that is how I consume, and then obviously I sometimes buy ebooks. But that is how I am consuming most of my books nowadays. And by nowadays I mean since I moved to Korea, is via ebook. So I have a Kindle. I know we hate Amazon, but I do own a Kindle. Just because it's the easiest thing. Although I do most of my ebook reading on my phone on the app. Most of the books that I read, I'm just straight up on my phone, and it feels a lot like fan fiction. And I read faster that way, and I think it's just because I'm so used to reading fan fiction. Yeah, so that's how I'm absorbing content. I think another little elephant in the room that we should talk about is, if you recall, and you totally might not, it's been a minute, I have always been pro audiobook as a medium. I think that's important to point out. However, prior to last year, 2024, I hated audiobooks, like consuming them. I hated being on the consumer of an audiobook. And it was because I couldn't figure out when and how. And it's the same that I don't love podcasts, or I didn't love podcasts, because I was like, when the hell am I supposed to listen to this? For me, prior to that, reading had always been a really active activity for me, where it's I'm sitting down and I'm reading, and that is still true. However, I have found, and I especially found last year, that there are a lot of times in the day that I have downtime, in the sense that I'm doing things that are active but still possess the brain power that I could be consuming content. So this is the time that maybe you would throw on a TV show in the background or something like that, where you're not necessarily sitting down and watching television, but you have the TV on for noise and story. And I found last year that there was quite a bit of time in my daily life where I could pop on an audiobook and be consciously getting book story, but still be doing other things. So most notably, I started listening to audiobooks at the end of 2024. I started listening to audiobooks during my prep time at work. I'm a teacher. I teach English. I'm a kindergarten teacher, and I have a handful of hours a week that's just prep time for me to prep for my classes. So this year I just started a new job in March. Like I said, it's April right now. So I just started a new job pretty recently. But at my current job, I have 5 hours of prep time. 5 main hours of prep time a week, and then I also have some smaller breaks. I have a few 30-minute breaks. So if you think about it, that's right there. That's half an audiobook, depending on the length of the book. But I usually listen on 2 times speed because they talk too slow. Why do they talk so slow? They talk too slow in audiobooks. Audiobook narrators talk too slow. The audiobook I'm listening to right now, literally I have it on 2.3 speed, because even on 2 times speed, it just sounds like this speed. It's a little bit, it's kind of like this speed. It's talking, but it's still not that fast. It's not sometimes you put an audiobook on 2 times speed and they're and I'm oh, that's too fast. And then I turn it down. But usually 1.8 or 2 is the right speed for me. So I can listen to a 10-hour audiobook in 5 hours. But I also have found that there's lots of other activities that I do during the day, during which I enjoy having something on in the background, and instead of television, I put in on an audiobook. So I have some handsy hobbies that I enjoy doing. I like to knit. I like to make bracelets. I like to draw and paint and color. And when I do all of those things, that's prime audiobook time, baby. So I've been consuming a lot of audiobooks. Actually, I said I've read about 9 books, almost 9 books this year. Not all of them. Most of those were audio. So as you can see, we've changed a lot in a few years. I'm super pro audiobook. But I also love a good physical book too. Another thing I feel like I just gotta tell you is that this year there were 2 books I read this year that I didn't really like. I gave both of them 2 stars. But almost every book I've read this year, I've given 4 stars. And I've really enjoyed most of the books that I've read this year, and I'm really glad that I've read them. I want a book that I'm literally in love with. I haven't found it. And I just know it's out there. I know it's out there. I just gotta get to it. It's just everything is a 3 or a 4. And I've read some really good books so far this year. I'm gonna film like an April wrap-up, except my April wrap-up's gonna be the first 4 months of the year wrap-up, because I only read like 3 books before April. Like 6 of those books. Ooh, I hiccuped. Like 6 of those books were April books, so I'm just gonna shove the other 3 in there, and we're gonna pretend. No, I'll tell you that I didn't read them in April, but we're just gonna shove them in and pretend that's normal. Just so I can tell you a little bit about all of the books that I've read so far this year. And I have a few days, I have like 5 days left in the month, and I think I'll finish the 9th book, and then I'm also in the middle of another book. That one I'm reading. That one I'm not listening to, that one I'm reading. So maybe I'll read 10 or 11 books by the end of the month, because I still got a few days. And I've been reading like fiend lately. I've been on it. I don't think either of these are going to be a 5-star book either. But that's where I'm at. So I just kind of wanted to catch up and chat with you a little bit and let you know where I'm at. So I also want to tell you a couple like content plans that I have, because I do have some. You may remember back in the day, I used to do TBR bingo, right? Right. I might bring back TBR bingo, because like I said, I think making content was good for my amount of reading. Another thing though, is that I am kind of a mood reader. I can plan what I'm reading to an extent, but I really like having options, which is why I liked TBR bingo, because TBR bingo wasn't like a really set TBR, it was like themes. So it would be like read a memoir, or like read a young adult, or like read a book on your physical TBR, things like that. So then I still could go through the month and I could still pick. And then what I did back then is I used to pick, I had them, all of the prompts like in a cup. I used to pull, I think 2 a month. And then the idea was that I would get to knock out at least 2 a month, but I could cross out more if I have more. So I have been toying with the idea of bringing back TBR bingo. Another thing is that for the past few years, I have been paying Book Riot for tailored book recommendations. They have like a My TBR tailored book recommendation service, and I've read some of them, but I've been paying for these literally since 2021. So I've received almost like 50, because I get them quarterly. I get 3 books, so I get 12 books a year. I have like 40 something books, and there's like, I think 41 of them I haven't read. So I'm thinking a series, and I'm thinking kind of also doing that. That one I am thinking of like building an actual TBR with. So I have them all written down. I'm gonna toss them in a cup or like a hat or a bag or something, and every month, or not every month, and then every time I do one of the videos, I'm gonna pull a couple, like 2 or 3, and then I'm gonna read those books so that I can knock off this like 40 book TBR that I have. And the thing that's cool about that is they're like literally like you talk to the person who picks the books for you. You can like tell them what you're looking for. They're like actual tailored book recommendations. These are all books that, based on the information I've given them, these people think I will like. So, and I don't always like them. I've read some of them, and some of them I loved, and some of them I didn't love. But even the ones I didn't love, I saw how they got there. Like I was like, I read the Decagon House Murders. was one of my TBR recommendations. I read Scapegracers, and then I also read, is it called Bitter Medicine? It's hilarious that I remember those two, because I didn't like Decagon House Murders, and I didn't really like Scapegracers, but I did, I think it's Bitter Medicine, but I loved Bitter Medicine. That was my favorite of the three. That was like one set of recommendations. No, it wasn't. Maybe it was. No, something else was on that list. I don't remember. I've read some of them, but I see, like, but I had given them really explicit instructions. Like, sometimes I'll be like, I'm looking for a haunted house book, and then I will receive a collection of haunted house book recommendations. Or I'm like, I want a magical realism, and then they give me magical realism. Or I'm like, I want witchy YA, which is how we got to Scapegracers. And I see how we get there, and I see how, based on other books I like, why they think I will like that. But sometimes they're wrong. But there's only one way to find out, right? And I just feel like I should try all these books that, first of all, I'm paying them. Second of all, they think I'm gonna like it. The chances are some of those books are 5 stars. Some of those books have to be 5 stars, right? Am I going crazy? I don't know, maybe. Anyway, I'm gonna film 2 videos soon. I'm planning on filming one tonight, but one of them, I'm literally just gonna tell you about the book service and then the book plan, and then read you the list of books. Although I'm gonna get 3 more in a couple weeks. And then the other one is gonna be the first vlog. But I want to finish the 2 books that I'm reading right now before I read those. So, we'll see. Yeah. Oh, what have I been reading? That's the other thing that I feel like we should talk about. It's a little different nowadays. I have been reading far less young adult. Not none. I still love a good YA. But I've been reading a lot more adult, which makes sense. I mean, I'm on, my birthday's like next week. I'm turning 27. So like I'm a lot further removed from a 17-year-old nowadays than I was when I was 21. I do, weirdly enough, have more in common with the 30-year-old protagonist typically than I do with the 17-year-old, which is not to say I don't love YA. Still to this day, some of my favorite books of all time are YA. A couple of my favorite books that I read last year were YA. I also was thinking of filming a video where I tell you where I like, basically a yearly wrap-up for 2024, but now. Just being like, here's all the books I read in 2024, and some reviews. Would you be into that? I don't know, man. We're figuring it out while we go along. I just feel like someone should hear about them. I read them. We should talk about them. Some of them were really good. Some of them weren't very good. Some of them were really good, though. So, like, why not? I've really been enjoying novellas in the last couple years. Like, a little bit shorter form. Think, like, 100 to 200 page novels. I've been trying to read, like, a little more diversely recently. Not, like, you know, I don't know. I just am, like, trying to be a little bit conscious of whether or not I'm only reading from white people, or like only reading from straight people. I'm never only reading from straight people, because I read a lot of queer fiction, and a lot of times queer people are writing queer fiction. I don't know. But yeah, so mostly adult nowadays. Not all adult, probably like 75% adult. Probably. Mostly thriller horror. Once again, not exclusively thriller horror, but mostly thriller horror. Some fantasy. I still don't love historical fiction. I find that I recently haven't been reaching for a couple of things. I haven't been reaching for like a contemporary, just like a book about a person doing something, you know, like that, less my vibe. And I haven't been reaching for a lot of fantasy that's like high fantasy. I've been reaching mostly for like lighter fantasy or like magical realism or like fabulism, that kind of vein. But I do still love a fantasy. Love a dystopian. I still haven't read Sunrise on the Reaping, which is insane. Because as we all know, The Hunger Games is my favorite book series of all time. So, but the reason I haven't is because I want to reread The Hunger Games first, and I just haven't done that. So, I also don't own it yet. And I want to own it hard copy. But I don't want to buy it from Amazon. But all of the stores in Korea that I've been to don't sell it yet. And I think they will, but I think it's too early. So maybe I'll buy the ebook. Read the ebook. And then later buy the... I don't know. I haven't gotten there yet. But, yeah. So that's where I'm at. This is basically just a rambly way of me telling you what's going on. State of the channel. I'm back, baby. I'm not gonna promise a weekly video. That seems unrealistic. I do want to post... for now, maybe just like at least a couple videos a month, maybe like every other week. Hopefully I'll settle back in and we'll get to one video a week again, because that's like, I just feel like that's like the sweet spot for content creation, at least for me. Although I have less time than I did my last semester of college, but more time than I did before that. Because, like, I do have a full-time job, but then I'm, like, done at 5:30. Like, and I don't usually have to stay late or anything. So, like, I do have plenty of evening time. I just have to, like, sit down and film. Anyway, happy to be back. Thanks for having me. I'm gonna go film my other videos now.